What's up and welcome to Ahead of the Curve. This is your host, Jonathan Gelner, and thank you so much for joining us today. This podcast is powered by Stick and Ball TV, the baseball and softball streaming platform. If you're a coach and you're looking to get better, then Stick and Ball is just for you. With weekly updated videos from some of the best baseball and softball coaches in the country, it's a no-brainer. Check them out at stickandball.tv or on the Stick and Ball TV mobile app. On today's show, we have part 2 with Jason Thompson from Brennan High School. And we go over preseason through playoffs, which includes practice plans, team defense and offense, and his process on getting his team ready to make a run through playoffs. Here is Jason Thompson. For the listeners who aren't in Texas or the surrounding areas, Texas baseball literally goes from January 20th. I mean, it's essentially all year long, but you have them as long as you want, January 20th, 21st, until playoffs are over in the middle of June. And so you've got to be really strategic, and you, especially, considering yourself and wanting to have a long playoff run, you've got to consider all of these things. And so tell us a little bit about we talked about arms and getting them ready. So you got 30 pitches for first practice. By the time you get to, which is what you guys call tournament season, you'll have 3 weeks to start, unless it's changed, to start the year. And then you've got scrimmages before then. But just if we're going to flip it to the offensive side, or just from the overall team side, when do you start to transition from that off season period? You're wanting to build a motor, and that, meaning throwing and hitting harder. And so what does it look like whenever you start to transition to, okay, now we've got to go over button defense and all the things that we need to know, to help win baseball games?
Yeah. So, I think that's something that I've really changed on over the years. And I'd love to be able to tell you it was, X number of years ago. But I think, as with most of us, it's, your philosophies are just kind of an evolution. I'm going to be real honest, and I'm going to tell you since I showed up at Brennan, I guess end of May last year, 1st of June, somewhere in there. We have not worked on defense one time. And I know, a lot of my buddies out there that I may get a text and hear about that, but, my thinking on it, may be a little bit different. Jonathan, I know I grew up, my dad was a high school baseball coach for 36 years, and we have this conversation all the time, but I grew up in that era of, pitching in defense. And, I think as I have grown as a coach, I think quite honestly, my mind has gone the other way. I talk about that round 3, and that's kind of where we are all the time. That's the benchmark for us. In round 3 of the playoffs, my belief, and again, this is just me, it doesn't make it right, but my belief, is that if we're in round 3 of the playoffs, we're going to be able to play defense. We're going to be able to catch it and throw it. If we can't do that, we're not going to be there. I also think if we're in round 3 of the playoffs, then we're going to have one, at least pretty close to dominant pitcher, if not truly dominant. And we're going to have another one that's pretty good, and then some strike throwers behind those two. But here's the thing. That other team is going to be able to catch it and throw it as well. And they're going to have a donkey on the mound too. And so I just truly don't feel like the defensive part or the pitching part at that point is a separator. I think the biggest separator, in my opinion, at that point is the offense. It's not, my guy throwing 87 and your guy throwing 89. I don't see a big difference there. It's whose offense can generate runs off of that other pitching staff and off that other defense that's pretty good. Couple with it the fact that now so many high school baseball games are being played on turf, so defense is even better. I just think run production is so important. I say all that to say, when will we take our first round of Mass Fungo? will be the first day of after school practice. We will continue to focus on the strength aspect. We'll continue to focus on the offensive aspect, and then continue to transition into getting our pitchers and our arms ready to go. But the defensive part really takes a back seat for us. We'll teach our bunt coverage, our first and thirds, those types of things that everybody has. We'll get that stuff in when we start practicing after school. And the reality, Jonathan, is that that's going to put us behind going through the scrimmages. It's going to put us behind through what you call tournament season, those first 2 or 3 weeks. And the truth is, in the district that we're in now, our first regular season game is a district game because our district is so big. It's it's a 10-team district, and so that admittedly puts us a little bit behind early in the season. But again, our philosophy is we're not trying to win a scrimmage. We're not trying to win the first game of the year and that be the pinnacle of the season. We're trying to win in round 3. And so if we've got to be a little slower at the beginning, if we've got to be a little bit behind other teams defensively in the beginning, then so be it. We feel like we're going to make up that ground early on with our offense. And then we feel like we'll make up that ground as we progress through the season and as we teach our systems and get more reps in.
That's awesome. I love that. And so building on the fact you talking about preparing your team for week 3 of the playoffs, talk about how you're going about training your hitters to be able to handle those situations. You've put a huge emphasis on it. And we talked about building the engine this fall and the different things that you guys are measuring. What is that transition like? Does it change whenever you start practicing after school? Does the focus change? And how are you creating extra runs?
Yeah, it's a tremendous question. I think, and I didn't, by no means did I come up with this, but, I think there's a huge difference between working on your swing and working on hitting. I'm not ashamed to tell you right now, the majority of our focus, or at least early on, the majority of our focus is we're trying to work on a swing. We're trying to build a swing because I truly believe that's the first step. And so we are going to use every implement that we have at our disposal. We're going to use every environment that we can. Whether that's tee or soft toss or front toss or, angled or in the cage, or whether that's, utilizing a machine or front toss or, whatever it is. But the goal is to create as many different feels as we can for our hitters and to continuously change the environment. And as we're changing the environment, continue to push them to be able to swing as hard as they can swing and to hit the ball as hard as they can hit it. And if we can train them to do that, if we can train the swing through those different environments to do those 2 things, swing fast and hit the ball hard, then we feel like as we start to transition into the season, we start to transition into things like, for example, a couple of weeks ago, we start to bring in our strike zone recognition into that. So, now not only are we measuring your bat speed and your exit velocity, but now, we're having you, after you hit the ball, we're having you call out a pitch location. And so we start to phase those things in. And then as we continue to build and continue to build, once we get to the season, now it's not so much about the swing anymore. Now we're working on being able to hit. We're working on being able to tell the difference between, the breaking ball that comes out of the hand flat that's going to be under the zone or the breaking ball that pops up out of the hand that's going to be hittable, for example. And we feel like, we feel like if we can teach intent now, that will transfer over, to the hitting piece in the season. We know Admittedly, we know that we're going to strike out a little bit more than than maybe what some teams like to. I mean, to be honest, more than I want to. But we also feel like if we go back and we look at our data again, just my team's data over the last 8 or 10 years, our years where our OPS has been the highest, we win more games. And so, if those are facts, then we've got to create a swing, or a hitting plan that leans itself to those facts and to that style of play. And so we've got to create an off season that lends itself to, to creating that swing and creating that, those environments where those kids can build that into what they do and into our season. So I know that's kind of all over the place right there a little bit, but that's how we try to do it.
I love it. So if you don't mind, can you dig into, you've given us some of the different outlines, but what are the players like? What are some drills that your players love to do? And we could stick with the offensive part, but I'm curious about you talking about strike zone recognition and where it's at in the strike zone. So let's just empty the bag of drills that your players like. Just staples in your program, things that that we can steal from you, that you've probably stolen from other people, but you've made your own. And I'd love to hear more about that.
Well, I'm going to tell you, I don't think I have anything that is my own. I think I've stolen everything, and I think been really fortunate to grow up in a coaching family, and then just to know a lot of really good guys and be able to take from them. But to that question about what do our kids like? I think it starts with two things. I think our kids love, again, regardless of the program that we've been in over the years, I think our kids love anything competition driven. And I think our kids love anything where we truly measure what they're doing. Our guys, when they come to us, they know we're going to measure bat speed, and they know that we're going to track that, and we can go back to workout number 1 of the summer, and they can see where they were, and they can see where they are today, and they can see how that correlates. It's the same in the weight room. It's the same with exit velocity. It will eventually be the same with arm velocity. Our kids love that. I think anytime that we can challenge them, again, just, those different implements, we love the axe trainers, that have become really, really popular. Before those came out, I remember making our own. I remember, taking an old bat and, putting tape around the top, just athletic tape around the top to make it barrel heavy. And I remember, taking a pool noodle and cutting it open and, putting a Ziploc bag full of pennies down around the knob and duct taping it on to make it barrel weighted. And, we just found ways to put different implements in guys' hands, and they, typically they love that. There's a product out there out of California called sledge bats, that our guys, I think both hate and love, because it's a tough tool, to swing with, but, man, when they figure it out, they absolutely love it. Once we get in season, turning it into a more of a team competitive environment. I think I mentioned, 75 innings of inter squad or scrimmages is that's the minimum for us. Our guys love to inter squad. Like I'm sure pretty much everybody's do. We'll try to do some things, inside of that where, we'll try to do it with some accelerated tempo. We have one version of a inter squad that we do where, we've got a screen behind the mound for safety, obviously, but, we've got 3 pitchers that are lined up, and, the count on the batter starts at 1-1, and the first pitcher comes, and, he's going to throw a pitch, and then, whatever the result is, he's out of there ASAP, and the next pitcher's in there. And if the first pitcher threw a ball, then the second pitcher's coming in at 2-1. And we rotate every pitch, and, our guys seem to like that. We've got a team drill. We've got a team drill that again, totally not mine. And I wish I could tell you where I got it from, but, where we do essentially a coach pitched batting practice segment, where there's 6 infielders out there and each guy has kind of a different thing that he's doing, but it's all on the stopwatch. And then outfielders have things that they're doing. So I think anything like that, our guys gravitate to, but I think that's people in general. I think people are competition driven. I think people, whether they know it or not, are data driven. We want to know that we're improving. And if we are improving, we want to know why. And if we're not, we want to know why. And so, just trying to create those environments for our guys, is really paramount for us. And then, I think maybe a little bit of a caveat off of that is, we take a lot of pride in the fact that we take feedback from our guys. We let them ask questions. We let them suggest things. That doesn't mean that we have to do it necessarily, but, every once in a while, our guys will come up with an amazing idea. I can remember, and I wish I could tell you the year, but, I can remember back at, when I was at Brazosport High School, which is in the Houston area. I remember we were kind of dragging a little bit. And, I remember one of our guys coming up and just saying, Coach, man, I think everybody's tired. And Jonathan, I didn't realize it at the time, but man, I had really pushed too hard. And I know that, maybe that doesn't sound real coach-like to say, we're just, supposed to drive. But, the reality is that, that mental piece I wasn't taking care of. And so one of the things that we implemented is, we play a district ball game on Tuesday night. Well, we're going to take Wednesday off. Win or lose, play well, play poorly, whatever it is, we're going to take Wednesday off. And we've had that in place for, gosh, I guess over a decade now. And I truly feel, like that's one of the best things that we have ever implemented inside of our program. I think our kids are healthier, both physically and mentally. Again, we talked about tying the parents in. I think our families appreciate it because it gives them a night to go have dinner together, or, if kids struggling in math, to schedule a tutor, or, whatever it is that they want to do, a doctor's appointment, whatever. But it gives them a chance to do that. And then, our guys come back to us fresh the next day and we're ready to roll. And that was entirely player driven, at least originally. So, and all those things I think have been really good for us.
That's awesome. And you mentioned in the off season that you guys did the player questionnaire. And I think that's a really good idea to even do in season for the coaches listening, just energy levels, and I think we look at it, and, if I think about this sometimes too, it's if I'm tired, then I know that the players are tired because I'm not working half as hard as they are. So that's a great transition to the playoff area or time period. And so you're keeping all of those things in mind, getting your team ready to go. And I've never experienced this as a head coach, but you hear the cliche of we scale back to make sure that our guys are ready for playoffs. But I would love to hear your thought process on what do you scale back on to make sure that they're fresh and ready to go through the playoffs, because again, your playoff season might be a month and a half long.
Yeah, it's a grind for sure. There's no question about it. And the best example I can give, and again, Jonathan, I say this, I didn't have a whole lot to do with it, man. But we had a great team and some great coaches, but in 2016, we did that. We obviously, started practice on the first day of the season and we played the last game of the season in Round Rock at the state tournament. And I think I learned a lot there. I think I did, hopefully I did some good things, but I know I did some things wrong there. And if I could do it over again, we'd do a little different. I say that to say this. I remember I remember the week of the state tournament, I adjusted our practice plan. We were out of school, and I adjusted our practice plan just a little bit. And, I remember that, giving guys the day off, like I mentioned a while ago, had, that had kind of been a staple. And we had tried through the playoffs, to continue to give guys, maybe it was a Monday or whatever the case may be through the playoffs, give them that day. And I remember that week I didn't, we played a great College Station team in the semifinals, and probably played one of our most complete games of the year. We win, and we go and we play Grapevine in the championship game, and just didn't play well. And it's really one of those things. Man, I wish I could go back and do the week a little bit different, because I think my guys were just spent. I think I pushed so hard that week that I don't know that I put them in the best position to win. So to answer your question, I preface it with that story to say this. I have really tried to evolve to a point where when we get to the playoffs, we're not doing a whole lot different. I don't want my guys to feel like the environment has really changed at all. If you talk about scaling back and absolutely, instead of that, 2.5 or 3 hour practice that you might have, right at the beginning of the season, or that 2 hour practice you might have in the middle of the season, maybe we try to get it done in 90 minutes or whatever the case may be. But, I want my guys I want my guys week one of the playoffs to know that, here's going to be your day off this week. This is when you schedule your personal things that you do. Here's what we're going to do on, Tuesday, for example. Here's the next day, and so on, and just treat it like another week. And that's really, I think, one of the benefits of sitting down at the end of every season when we get ready to close the book on the previous year and start looking ahead to the next season, of starting at round 3. And I apologize for beating that to death, but it's just what we believe in. And if we do that, and we truly calendar backwards, then when we get to round 1, when we get to round 2, when we get to round 3, our guys know exactly what's coming. They know exactly what to expect. And as calm and normal as we can make things for those guys, I think the better. Because with our season, with the Texas high school baseball season, and I assume in a lot of the other states, not only are you dealing with everything that goes into the playoffs and the bigger crowds and the bigger stadiums, but it's also the end of the school year. And so you've got graduation coming up, and you've got families coming in. You've got families that are looking at vacations down the road. You've got, little brothers and sisters who are, going from elementary school to junior high. I mean, it's, there's just so much going on for our families that if we can just normalize things as much as possible, then I think that puts our guys in a better state. And so, I guess that would be kind of how we scale back, but in reality, I don't know that we're really scaling back. I think it's just a continuation of what we've done all year.
No doubt. Well, I love hearing that. And that really, that is a very, macro look at an entire year, with you as a head coach. And I love hearing that. And so I want to end, with this question, and it's a new question because I'm trying to figure out really how to word a really powerful question at the end to let you kind of sign off. But if you had to, I'll call this the legacy question, and we'll see if it gets any traction. But I guess the question is, if you want to pass on something to the next generation, whether that's a resource or advice or something that you learned, and you really want to let the younger coaches out there hear this, what comes to mind?
Yeah. And it's a phenomenal question. I wish I could go back. Wish you could, I wish you would ask the 23-year-old me that question. I think maybe I would have been a lot better, but, I think it's this. I think in education and at the end of the day, as coaches, that's what we're in. I think in education, our job is to make sure that we put the kid first. And I know that, again, there's nothing new or revolutionary there, but I guess my thought on it would be in athletics, you have to make sure that you coach the kid first and the sports second. And I know early on in my career, I don't think I did a great job of that. I think, I think I was all baseball all the time, pedal down, let's go. I wanted to win. I wanted to win really badly. And of course I wanted our team to be successful. But if I had to be totally honest, I probably wanted our team to be successful so I could be successful. And that's just, that's not it. That's what it's about. And so as I think back 20 years, man, I think, wow, what a disservice, to those first groups of kids that I had. And so I think if we keep that in mind, that you're coaching the kid, you're coaching the individual, the person first, and then the sport second. And then I think, for those guys that are classroom teachers too, I think it's the same thing there, right? Like, you teach the kid first, you teach your subject second. And I think if you do that, at least for me, it helps, it helps keep everything in perspective. And then, and then if I could twist off that for a sec, I think maybe the 1B to that would be, as a coach, as a head coach, I think there's a difference between coaching your team and coaching a program. And I think, for those guys that are maybe taking their first head coaching job, I would really encourage them to look at that. And again, what I mean, early on, those first few years that I coached, I don't know that had a whole lot to do with my JV, my freshman team or whatever it was at the time. I was purely focused on those varsity guys and those guys that were going to help us win. And that to me is focusing on the team. I think now, as I've evolved as a person and a coach, I think, I talked earlier about that, feeling like my assistants need to do 60 to 80% of the coaching. Well, that's because my job is to guide the program, not just a team. And so I think, I know guys that do it the other way, and that's okay. If it works for them, then good for them. But I think as maybe as a young coach, that's something you really gotta decide is, are you there to coach your team, or are you there to develop your program? Because there's definitely a difference.
Thank you for listening to Ahead of the Curve. If you enjoyed the show, please consider leaving us a rating or review wherever you are listening. I also wanted to remind you that you can find the video portion at the AOTC channel on stickandball.tv. Have a great week.